pushes way up the racetrack, and now here comes Janzik. Janzik goes by Query, and he goes by Inman. Burnell gets a great run, another 3 wide for the race lead. It's going to drag race off of turn 4. Shepard is there, but it's Larry White at the line. Still going to be Pat Ward, and they make contact. Britton has broken the race car. AJ Slideways. Alan Johnson wins.
Whether you hug the infield tires or rip the cushion, you found the fastest dirt track podcast in motorsports. Welcome to Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Here's Stephen and Brad Ovens.
Hey fans, welcome in to another episode of Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of the Land of Legends Raceway, and coming to you this week with a fun sit down here with Chris Marquart, who has been a big part of motorsports. We're going to find out for just how long here in just a minute, but also wanted to talk to him about his experience filling in as our producer last year on Land of Legends TV and all the stresses and some of the fun that came along with doing that. So, Chris, welcome into the program, man. Glad to have you aboard.
Appreciate you having me. It's weird being on the side of it.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's very weird.
So, Chris mentions that, and I feel like for a lot of our listeners, they know your story, Chris, and all the projects that you've been involved in over the years. A lot of times, projects that you and I have crossed paths on. You and my brother have crossed paths on. But what I wanted to start with was, we've crossed paths on some projects, but how was it that, got you started, or what was it that gave you the racing bug, and how long ago was that?
It was probably the late 80s. We used to go to Rolling Wheels or Weedsport or Canandaigua with my dad and my uncle. We went pretty frequently. I remember we went to a World of Outlaws race at Canandaigua, and then afterwards you go feel the tire to see if the tire's still warm after the feature. It was back when everybody didn't scamper out of there, and that was sort of the hook, and was going to those races then, and it kept up through the 90s. And as I went through my career at Waterloo High School, I decided I wanted to go the path of being a writer and pursue journalism. Then I minored in sports marketing at Fisher and sports management at Fisher, and finished my journalism degree there. And I started writing the motorsports column for the Finger Lakes Times. And it was the same winter that Steve Payne started driving for Sweeteners, whether that was 99 or 2000, it was in there. And then you said that people know my story. It's like, it doesn't even really register that people do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. It's weird to me because I don't get people coming up and saying hi, and I'm fairly reserved. I'm not somebody that's out there making posts on social media and stuff like that. I go to the racetrack, I do my job, and I go home. And if I stay as hidden as possible, it's all the better. I'm not out there, and so maybe people do, and I'm just not aware of it. But it always seems to me like I'm this ghost in the shadows that nobody really knows. I'm not bold and out there the way like Mike Mallett or other people that came up the same time as we did, like Mike Mallett or Brett Dale when he was doing his writing and stuff. And I don't know. It's just weird to hear you say that too. Like I said, this is very awkward to be on the side of it.
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point, and the interesting point is a conversation or an interview that you and I did long ago when I was just kind of getting into writing and things like that. The way that you got into writing, or you tried to break into motorsports, media, anything back in the day it seems like way different than it is now. What was that experience like for you, and what do you see as the big differences between then and now?
Well, then I think there's a lot of different ways that you could get published, but there was also a lot of different people that would just kind of hang around and give their opinion. There wasn't a lot of interviews and stuff that were happening then. There wasn't a lot of conversations that were happening with drivers. We just had a sort of like if you look at Gator Racing News when I was there in the middle 2000s, 2005, 2008, somewhere's in there. There wasn't a lot of there was a lot of opinion pieces, but there wasn't a lot of new pursuing of news, a lot of rehashing of the press release that you could see on the other page. And I wanted to feature people more. I wanted to have more of those conversations and treat it like it was going to be presented in a newspaper and come to it from a true journalistic angle. And at the same time, I was a proponent of my time is worth something. Freelance is all over the place, and I was a fan of trying to get paid for what I was doing. I wanted to make a living doing it, and if you keep giving stuff away for free, then you're never going to be able to get paid. And I got a couple of jobs with Black Rock Speedway. At one point, I was a announcer there and doing the writing stuff for Morgan Colgrove. I got a job with World of Outlaws for a very short time, covering the late model series, the 358 series for Dirt Car. I was there in 2009 before I got sick. Was the announcer for a short time at Land of Legends Raceway, and it was kind of funny for it to all come first full circle the way that it did. And now it's almost there's just endless numbers of outlets to get printed and to get published, whether it's published hard copy or just existing online. And I gotta believe that some of those with the advertisements and stuff that are cycling around on there, in some way those people are getting something for their time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you just said that, as long as I've known you, I did not know that you were with the late model series back then. I
Yeah, hot
love that
second.
part of your story.
It was a hot second. It started in February and it ended in June, maybe 2000. I can't remember what year it was. Um, Rick was still alive and he was announcing, and World Racing Group had just taken over. And I did a handful of races, and then I called the office in, I almost think the offices were still in Colorado at the time. And I was talking about booking flights to go to Red River Valley. And they said, don't book those flights. Something's coming up. And shortly after that, all chaos broke loose, and I was not with the Outlaws anymore.
Okay.
I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you that story another time. That's one that I'm still not real comfortable with.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You talked about your time at, what it was then called Black Rock Speedway. I'm
Yeah.
curious your perspective on trying to, I mean, you announced there, but you also, did public relations work. I I think back, like I was still, I wasn't racing at that point. I was probably,
I think you were racing the first year that I was there. That was the first year I was there, like Laverne Knickerbocker and
yeah,
Gary Montgomery was in charge. And
yeah,
then my second stint there was under Dean Hogue. So that would have been after 2005.
yeah. So back then, what I can't, it's hard for me to picture because I wasn't really on the media side back then, but I can't imagine the difficulty of trying to promote and put butts in the seats when to me, with all the tools and all the fun gadgets we have to try to utilize now, and there's pros and cons on both sides of
Hmm.
that. But I'm just curious your perspective on trying to promote and trying to sell tickets, with what you had back then.
Um, it was all so much of it was email blasts and getting on the different websites. I mean, when was Facebook? When was Facebook created? When was that?
Was that
Do you know?
2004,
It was 2004.
2003?
So I mean, some of this is like early entry of Facebook. So people weren't leveraging Facebook as the marketing tool. I don't think Twitter was around yet either. So
Yeah.
you would write the you'd write the pre-race, you'd write the sponsor on Tuesday, you'd write the pre-race on Thursday, and you'd write the post-race on Friday night, and you had to get that done Friday night. It was, I mean, Tom Skavinsky was the master of that. You get the email blast going around at 4 a.m. because he hit the send button.
Yeah.
That's when it was finished, was when it was sent.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, the race report stuff, still comes out like that. But with the age of immediacy, you know who finished first in the race the minute the checkered flag falls because you got 45 people in the grandstands that are tweeting congratulations to the winner.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad thing. Don't take that wrong. So it was a challenge. It was a challenge. There was an emphasis on the schedule flyers and the trifold brochures and getting those out around town, and also at the same time, I think it was a different marketing partnership relationship and process than what we have now. I think it required you to be more diligent and more door to door and more focused on serving who that individual was, because if you didn't have that face to face time, you didn't have any time with them.
Yeah.
Now it's so different with being able to do the interviews at the track and being able to watch online and just shoot an email or a text to somebody, and then the business to business stuff was done face to face, and it was tough, but you had to have that relationship because you had to get that poster in the window, because if you didn't get that poster in the window, then then the fans in the communities didn't know what was going on at the track.
Yeah. It's so funny hearing you talk about this because I remember, pre-social media, you would, man, if I was really bored, I'd refresh the website 4 or 5 times a day to see what
Mhm.
was coming out and see, what's the news, or oh, I got to check on Wednesday because the points are coming out and I got to see where we
Mhm.
are.
Yeah,
Um,
you and I are those that were born in the late 1900s that remember when telephones had dials. It's
That's
a,
right.
it's a different world.
Yeah. I know I'm probably putting you on the spot with this question, but what is something that really worked back then that you think still could work if we aren't doing it right now?
Fan giveaways.
Yeah.
Fans love to get stuff for free. If you can get your night sponsor or your night whoever or somebody from the track to walk along the front stretch of the grandstands and throw the surplus shirts up into the crowd, or a frisbee or something that's tangible that has that track name on it. That
Hmm.
is the best advertising dollar that you spent, because they are going to remember they got something for free, and they're going to come back with a hope that someday they get something free again.
Yeah. And
That's
you
the
know
best thing
what?
going.
If you're a business or somebody that has a business that's listening to this, that is a great, even for, a business, even if you don't take like take the plunge on a night sponsorship or something. You got you got 10, 15 t-shirts hanging around that you've had for 3 years. Bring them to the track. Meet up with Tana. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
The those 7.5Xs and 8 extra smalls that haven't sold in
That's
3 years that aren't going to sell next year. Might better chunk them into the stands, and somebody can make a t-shirt quilt out of them, but they're going to remember that they were there, and they're going to remember that moment.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. All right, let me transition to sitting in I always used to say that sitting in the announcer's chair was the hot seat, but I now have vivid experience last year sitting in what I will now call the hot seat, which is the producer's chair. And I know that this is, last year was far from the first time you've produced an event
Right.
video wise, but I'm just curious how it differed from what you've done in the past. Was there more pressure? How do you compare the experience? Because um, I mean, I have my own thoughts, but you did it a lot more frequently than I had to do it last year, and I'm just curious your thoughts looking back on last year.
Well, the first thing was I had to put my notebook to the side. There was no hope that I was going to keep track of what happened. That was
Yeah.
I that was out the window. Like when I was announcing down at BlackRock, I would keep my notebook or a laptop open, and I would kind of do things in live time as it was going, so that when the race was over, my job was over as well. I could hit the send button. We were done. Um, man, I was a guest in that house. I was borrowing the keys, and I will say that till till the last person on earth hears it. I was very fortunate to have known Art and you and Brad, and I feel very fortunate and to basically as a guest in the house do no damage. At the same time, it was weird because I'm not somebody who's boastful or anything like that. So, but I had experience doing this stuff, and I was confident that coming in, we were going to be okay. And I had a good teacher, and art was available by text message or whatever the means of media we were using at that time, whether it was a text or phone call or whether it was just an email or whatever was easiest for him. So I felt okay. At the same time, I was just short of throwing up in my car when I pulled into the track the first time because
I
like,
could
oh
tell
boy.
that first night, man. I felt it for you.
It's like, boy, that announcer's chair is only about 3 feet away, but it feels like it's 1,000 yards on the other side of this complex right now. We are a long ways from the familiar waters, but it's nothing that I hadn't done before. I've been running Crash Course and Smashed Empire Films and now Iron City TV for quite some time. I mean, it wasn't anything that I wasn't able to do, but I wasn't in a comfortable spot. It wasn't anything that I wasn't confident that I would be successful at, but it was still very, very, there's a lot of pressure, from myself to prove to everybody that I could do it,
Yeah.
because these are people that I don't know. They're not familiar with what's happened with Crash Course. They don't know what happened with 31st lap. They're not familiar with final round. I can tell them, but they don't know.
Yeah.
So, to go into the field and pull off some of the stuff that we did with Crash Course Live down in Virginia in the mountains, it felt like it kind of prepared us for anything that could come. But it's a what have you done for me lately industry. It's a what have you done for me lately business. So, all that stuff is great, but if you can't do it tonight, it really doesn't matter.
Right. And I probably should have done a better job on the lead in here because we're kind of referring to Art Rorick. So Art Rorick is our executive producer at Land of Legends TV, who, ran into some health issues last year and quite frankly, and I know Art will not have a problem with me saying this, had some very, very, serious health problems and surgeries that went along with them. And,
And he's still a step behind.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And he'll joke with us on that. But I gotta say, Chris, man, for the challenges that Art ran into last year, when I saw him at the banquet in January, man, he looked like $1,000,000.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last time he walked out of the tower at Canandaigua last spring, I was very nervous for my friend. I really was.
Mhm.
And I will say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting here interviewing you, but I'm super happy that Art is coming back and he's on the uptrend, feeling great. He looks like $1,000,000. And so I'm happy that Art's coming back. I'm a little sad though, because at the same time, in in Art's, in a replacement role, like you came in and by the end of the season, our last shows of the year, I felt like we were on it. Like
Mhm.
we got into a great rhythm. So I'm super stoked that Art's coming back. Um, but but at the same time, I know that we've already talked about some ways that we're gonna, keep you in the fold with us and work on some cool projects. But I guess what I'm trying to go in the long way here to say is that there was, yeah, we felt, or I don't know, maybe it was me. I felt like we were so much on a week to week basis. We want to get through these shows. We want to, do, the very best we can. There was no, there was no question that we were going to be even at a very basic level. I remember Art telling us, okay, even if the graphics don't work, if replays don't work, if we go to a single camera up on the roof, we're gonna get the show in. We're even if the live stream gives us fits and we have to record and post it later, like there was no question that we were gonna be able to do what we needed to do. But um I just yeah, I can't imagine the pressure, but I felt like on the nights that I had to step in, that I felt like expectations were not super high, so that, hey kid, go in there and do the best you can. If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. It's no big deal. Um, so I feel like there was probably more pressure on you because you have done this stuff.
Right.
I can't imagine what that felt like.
Well, we were able to do all that stuff. We were
Yeah.
able to run multiple cameras. We were able to run the wireless. We were able to do the graphics. We were able to do the interviews. We had a couple times we played the interviews right off of Mike's camera. A couple times we pulled them in and we dropped them in and added them to the production suite. We were able to do the replays. I felt comfortable doing all of that stuff. And while while I guess it's safe to say the expectations were low, knowing what Art did, knowing how Art did things, knowing why he did them that way, having the correct terminology. So if we did run into a problem, we could talk to Art from a distance and still be successful. I I thought that I thought there was very little gap to me between when Art was there and maybe halfway through the season when we really started to get some momentum going. I didn't think that
Yeah.
there was a lot of fall off in terms of the output for the fans. And the other thing with that is fans, I I hate to make anybody feel bad with this. Fans only know what they're missing if you tell them what they're missing, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. If you only have one camera and you don't show any replays, and you just keep talking about what's happening on the screen, nobody's going to sit back and say, we haven't seen any replays or anything tonight until, there's a 17 car pileup and massive flip and the most spectacular wreck of the season. And we can't show it again. But,
Right.
at the same time, they're only going to know what they're missing if you tell them what they're missing. And we told them that it was the greatest racing that they were seeing, and everybody agreed with it.
Yeah. You say that, and I think of one driver who made a comment late in the year. I think it was Mark Manutlo that said, he said, dude, I didn't even know that all this stuff was going on. And I don't know about you, but I felt like for us, that was the biggest compliment we had all year.
Loved it.
Was nobody had any idea, other than people like, close to the production team or close to Art or me or you, they may have known, but yeah, that was like the biggest compliment last year is nobody knew the difference. So it's yeah, it just was so question there. So um hardest part, most rewarding part of doing the job last year.
Hardest part was filling the shoes. I guess that's the right answer. Hardest part in execution was rebuilding after the big tour race. Um, Hardest part also getting the speakers back to work so Tom could record the victory lane interviews and didn't have to go down to the other speaker in turn
Mm,
one.
yep. Yep.
Hardest part, most rewarding part, being able to get more done uh faster than what Art thought we could.
Yeah.
That was the best. Most rewarding part also spending 2 hours or so at Art's house and talking as friends, colleagues, peers in the industry, uh, it, versus going there with my notebook and just hoping to get as much information out of them as I could so that we could be successful.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that
I think you could speak from that experience. I will say from my perspective, I feel like, you know, I probably don't pump Art up enough for the experience and the knowledge that he brings. There's so many things that we've been able to do and will be able to continue to do, from what he has done over the course of his career. And you know, I can't. Art could write a book if he wanted to. He really
Mhm.
could. I mean, there's just from different organizations, different series, traveling the country, and now focusing on Land of Legends TVs. He's a big part of DTD TV as well. So I mean, yeah, I'm glad you said that because I don't. I'll say just from my perspective, I probably don't give him enough credit on air or because it's tremendous.
I,
But
I I'm just very thankful that I'm very thankful that Art had the confidence in our conversations, being familiar with so many different streaming entities in the backgrounds and how the production stuff worked. He had the confidence to say, "Hey, I think you should," versus "could you?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's there's a big difference in how could you fill in for me at Land of Legends, or I think you should fill in for me at Land of Legends. Very different sentence coming from somebody with as much experience as Art.
Right. So so I know you're still covering the sport with the Finger Lakes
Mhm.
Times.
Yep.
What else is going on right now in your world? Because
Oh,
I think there's been a shift, right?
there's been a couple shifts, yeah. I do this stuff for the Finger Lakes Times. Crash Course has gone into a hiatus, the podcasting stuff. So Smashed Empire Film, Smashed Empire Media is still around in the sense of making Demolition Derby car roof signs, graphics, decals. The Derby Inc. magazine has been put to the side. There's a new Demolition Derby magazine out there, and I'm more than content letting somebody else juggle those headaches. But yeah, I used to publish a magazine. I did 4 or 5 volumes just here from home. Um, I've got some T-shirt orders that I need going on for again. That's under the Smashed Empire Media banner. And then Iron City TV is still rolling with Derby Nation. We'd go around and do demolition derbies. That's why I was out a couple of Saturdays this year. We had to go to Missouri and Kansas a couple times for a couple of events out there. But those are all side gigs and side hustles because there's still time to burn in the course of the day. But I work at Midlakes School. I'm a TA there, and we've changed the what it used to be time away. It was sort of this ambiguous for those our age. They remember it as in school suspension, but it was for the elementary school.
Okay.
And we've changed the whole presentation of that by using our multi-tiered systems of support and stuff like that to make this a reset room. So if somebody needs extra time on a test, if somebody needs extra tutoring time, if they need extra support, if they need a break, it's still, don't get me wrong, I still have lunch detention in school suspension stuff happening in that room under various titles, but it's more than just that now. And then in there, we record the Midlakes Elementary School News. So I run the news club at the elementary school and at the high school. Now since January, we've been able to do it a couple events with Eagle Vision, which is something that's going to be talked about a little bit more this year at Land of Legends, coming up in June by the sounds of things. That is the middle and high school is streaming their own events with students on the cameras, with students at the productions, and students on commentary.
Oh, it's
and
awesome.
and we've been working very, very hard to get that going. It's like the old days. I'm trying to do $10,000 worth of work with broken stuff that came off of a dusty shelf, but it's okay. We're building a program, and we were able to do the first ever Mid Lakes girls wrestling match for varsity. We had a bunch of
Okay.
girls that qualified for the girls states. We did the boys senior night. We did a couple basketball games. Um, had some challenges with some capture devices, so I called up Art. I said, if you leave a part outside, can I steal it? And we timed it right because he was just getting ready to leave for Florida, but we got the capture device straightened out. We did the basketball games. Everything worked out awesome. One of the kids that's on the video crew wasn't able to help out on the last two because he was busy going off and winning 2 state championships and long jump and triple jump for the indoor season. So I guess I'll let it slide. And then we did the Mid Lakes Madness game, which was we kept all that stuff in house. That was the kickoff for the United Way fundraiser. We raised like $1,700, and it was the students and the adults playing on teams against. It's only teachers against teachers and only students against students, but the students were the coaches, and they did this whole draft thing, and we were able to
Oh,
do that and tape it and share that out to the staff. And again, the kids were involved in the production of that too.
you said earlier in our interview here that you don't share a lot on social media, but I will say what you do share on social media, I feel like you're in a phase right now where you are really doing some rewarding work.
I I love what I do. If I'm going to put it on Facebook, it's going to be something that I want to remember this day too. When it
Yeah,
comes up 9 years ago, you did this. I want to be able to remember that.
yeah,
My big thing, and I've said this to you before. It's a broken record, and I hope to say it this many times doesn't make it lose its value. But my goal every day is to leave the world better today than I left it yesterday, just to make
yeah,
it better somehow. Whether because the kids are never going to remember what you said, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel. So I try to like keep that in mind when I'm talking with my coworkers, with the students, all that other stuff all the other stuff that happens in your day. Just find a way to make somebody's day better, and maybe they'll pay that forward, and maybe that'll be the catalyst that makes another person make the world better. And I try to do that and live it. And like I've said to you before, it's something that's front of mind and consciously happening all the time. And this job has been absolutely outstanding. I love what I'm doing at the school.
yeah. Well, keep doing that, man. And again, not just saying this because we're sitting here talking, but I think back to being a racer when you were just starting at Black Rock, and I've felt that right away that, this was a guy that, you know, I felt like I could walk up and tell you something that was going on with our team, or I could tell you a, batshit crazy story about my father, and you'd find a way to work it in. And it's like, but you still do that. You're still doing that today, whether it's, with the kids at school, Finger Lakes Times, man. It's keep doing that, because it does make. And I'm just speaking personally. I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way when they get to read about themselves in the paper, and all these things that are happening. But man, I cannot believe we've covered about 30 minutes here. But I appreciate the time. And yeah, like you said, between the event in June and some other things that we're working on in the background, there's a lot more to come, and looking forward to it. And appreciate getting some of the perspective. And I feel like there's so many roads that we could have gone down. I guess we're gonna have to do this again at some point.
Fine.
So,
I'm
hey
always
man, I
good.
appreciate it.
Good way to spend an afternoon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
folks. That's Chris Marquart. Appreciate his time. Trying to put together a few podcasts here to get us get us ready, get us enticed for the 2024 season. So we've got a lot more coming up. You've heard from Paul Cole already. We've got some drivers that we're going to chat about in an upcoming interview. I'm going to talk with a driver who landed a sponsorship from a business in Florida, and they were able to do so because of what's happening with Land of Legends TV. So stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We always post them here on social media as well, on the Facebook page. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of good content coming up as we get ready to kick off 2024. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Land of Legends Raceway fans, tune in each and every week of the racing season to Where Legends Are Made, a podcast dedicated to covering the drama, excitement, and hear from the drivers from your favorite dirt track. Stephen Ovens and Brad Ovens walk you through the week that was Where Legends Are Made. Subscribe on Apple or Google Podcasts and visit landoflegendspodcast.com.
Fans of Land of Legends Raceway and the Where Legends Are Made podcast, we've got a great opportunity for you to feature your business. We have opportunities here to sponsor Where Legends Are Made. We have all different features of the podcast. You can pick to be a sponsor of one of our heat races. Maybe you want your business name attached to the top 10 read-offs for the week. Maybe you want your business to be the one that's heard when we play our highlight of the week. Maybe you're a history buff. You want to sponsor Heat 3, where we talk about this week in Land of Legends Raceway history. Maybe you want to be the main sponsor. So when we interview our main driver of the week, you want to get your business out in front of that. We've got plenty of opportunities for you to do so, and we can work inside of any budget. And believe me, if you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, I don't think my business has the advertising budget to sponsor a podcast, believe me, we can fit inside of anybody's advertising budget. Get your business a little bit of advertising here on Where Legends Are Made. Contact us right here on the Land of Legends Raceway Facebook page if you're interested, and put your business in front of all of our fans where legends are made.